You've seen the claims. This penny is worth $1 million. This quarter can make you rich overnight. But is it true? The truth is, most of it is completely fake. Exaggerated prices, misleading hype. That's what we're here to expose. Welcome to Rare Coin Collecting.
You're looking through your change, and you spot it. A cowboy on horseback, lasso raised high. You flip it over and see the year, 2007. But here's the detail that could make your heart race. A tiny D mint mark right above the date. That means this quarter was struck at the Denver Mint. And if it's the right variety or condition, it could be worth a lot more than 25 cents. Online, you'll even see claims that a rare 2007 D Wyoming State Quarter has sold for $500,000. Sounds unbelievable, right? Well, that's because in most cases it is. But in the world of coin collecting, when a one-of-a-kind error combines with top-grade perfection, the price ceiling can skyrocket, and that's where these wild numbers come from. Let's get into the facts. The Wyoming State Quarter was the 44th release in the 50 State Quarters program, which ran from 1999 to 2008. Wyoming's design is bold and simple. The famous bucking horse and rider silhouette with the words "the equality state," a nod to Wyoming's history as the first U.S. state to grant women the right to vote. For the 2007 D version, the U.S. Mint in Denver produced 328,000 coins. That's a massive mintage, which means finding one in circulation is common, but finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition is another story. The more coins that are made, the higher the chance of small mistakes. And that's where collectors start paying attention. So what makes some of these worth serious money? Errors and condition. Let's start with errors. One of the most talked about Wyoming quarter errors is the extra leg or extra hoof variety. This happens when a die clash or die chip leaves extra metal in the design, making it look like the horse has extra limbs. Then there are dramatic die cracks, especially around the rider's lasso or along the lettering. There are also examples of off-center strikes and partial collar errors, which are instantly visible and highly collectible. Now about that top-end value. In perfect mint state 68 condition, graded by PCGS or NGC, a 2007 D, Wyoming Quarter has sold for over $2,000 at auction. Not $500,000, but still an incredible leap from face value. The wild $500,000 figure you see online usually comes from speculative listings or the idea that a never-before-seen dramatic mint error could attract an extreme high roller bid. It's not likely, but in the coin world, strange things do happen. If you're searching for one worth big money, here's what to look for. Mint mark, D for Denver, crisp and clear. Strike quality, strong details in the horse, rider and lettering, no weak spots. Nowhere, look for a clean, uncirculated surface and no scratches, no nicks, no bag marks. Possible errors, extra limbs, die cracks, doubling in the lettering, or off-center strikes. A regular circulated 2007 D Wyoming Quarter is worth just face value. Maybe a little more if lightly circulated. An uncirculated one could bring $1 to $5. Certified MS-67 or higher can jump into the hundreds. And with a rare error in high grade, you're into four-figure territory. Weight-wise, these coins come in at 5.67 grams, with a composition of copper nickel over a pure copper core. Any significant difference in weight might mean you've got a wrong planche strike, a type of error that can command big premiums. If you think you've got something special, handle it carefully by the edges. Even a tiny fingerprint can drop the grade and slash the value. Store it in a 2x2 flip or a protective capsule, and consider professional grading if it looks flawless. For selling, standard ungraded coins can move on eBay, but for top grades or rare errors, you'll want to use an auction house like Heritage Auctions or Great Collections, where serious collectors are watching. The Wyoming Quarter might not seem flashy at first, but it's part of one of the most collected coin series in U.S. history. Whether yours is a simple piece of pocket change or a rare treasure hiding in plain sight, depends on the details, and in coin collecting, the details are everything. So next time you spot that bucking horse and rider, Take a closer look. You never know if you're holding a common coin or the kind of rare find that makes headlines. You're looking through your spare change, and a coin catches your eye. A cowboy on a bucking horse, lasso frozen in midair. You turn it over and see the date, 2007, but the tiny mint mark above the date isn't a D, it's a P. That means this quarter was minted in Philadelphia. And if you know what to look for, that little P could mean the difference between pocket change and a small fortune. If you've been scrolling through online listings, you've probably seen wild claims. This quarter sold for $500,000? It sounds too good to be true, and most of the time it is. But here's the thing. There are coins out there with jaw-dropping prices. When the perfect combination of rarity, condition, and dramatic mint error comes together, the results can be shocking. Let's separate the hype from reality. The Wyoming State Quarter was the 44th release in the U.S. Mint's 50 State Quarters program, which ran from 1999 through 2008. The design features the famous bucking horse and rider, an iconic symbol of Wyoming, along with the words "the Equality State," a nod to Wyoming's history as the first U.S. state to grant women the right to vote. For the 2007 P version, the Philadelphia Mint struck 243,600,000 coins. That's a massive mintage, which means most of these are still just worth face value. But when you look closely, you might discover something that turns an ordinary quarter into a collector's prize. One of the most well-known error varieties for the 2007 P Wyoming quarter is the extra leg or extra hoof error, caused by die breaks or die chips that add extra shapes to the horse's legs. There are also dramatic die cracks, often running through the lasso or lettering, and double dies where parts of the design appear doubled under magnification. And then there are off-center strikes, instantly noticeable and always collectible. Condition is just as important as the error itself. A coin graded MS-67 or MS-68 by PCGS or NGC can bring hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on the demand and rarity of the error. The highest known sale for a top-graded 2007 P Wyoming quarter has pushed past the $2,000 mark, a far cry from $500,000, but still an incredible jump from 25 cents. Your first step in checking value is looking for a sharp strike with no wear, strong details in the horse's mane, the rider's hat, and the lasso, a clean surface with no heavy scratches or bag marks, any unusual shapes or lines, possible die breaks, doubling, or strike misalignment. Weight is also worth checking. The standard weight for a clad state quarter is 5.67 grams, made from copper nickel over a pure copper core. A significant weight difference could mean the coin was struck on the wrong planche, and that can skyrocket its value. Where could you find one? Pretty much anywhere change is handled. Cash registers, tip jars, bankrolls, Coinstar reject bins, garage sales, even those old coffee cans of coins in the attic. Picture yourself stumbling on one at a yard sale, paying a quarter for it, and later finding out it's worth hundreds, maybe more. If you find a potential winner, handle it by the edges only, on no touching the faces, and store it in a protective holder. If it's truly flawless or has a dramatic error, consider sending it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC. Yes, there's a grading fee, but for high-value coins, it's worth every penny. Selling is all about the right venue. Common ungraded examples with mild errors can sell on eBay, but for high-grade or rare errors, you'll want to go through a major auction, house like heritage auctions or great collections, where serious collectors compete. The 2007 P Wyoming quarter might not be rare in the traditional sense. Hundreds of millions exist, but the rare ones are hiding in plain sight. It's a reminder that sometimes the most valuable treasures aren't locked away in museums. They're jingling in your pocket, just waiting for you to notice the details. So the next time you see that cowboy and horse, don't just toss it in with the rest of your change. Flip it, check that P mint mark, look for the telltale signs of rarity. And remember, even an everyday coin can carry an extraordinary story. You're flipping through a box of coins, maybe from an estate sale or a grandparent's old desk drawer. One quarter shines brighter than the rest. Mirror-like fields, frosted designs, and a cowboy on a bucking horse. You look closer. Above the date, you see an S mint mark. This isn't your everyday pocket change. This is a 2007 Wyoming State Quarter, and if you know what to look for, this little beauty could be worth far more than 25 cents. You've probably seen bold headlines. This Wyoming quarter sold for $500,000? Let's clear the air. Those numbers are almost always exaggerations, fueled by hype and misinterpretations of rare coin sales. But there are Wyoming quarters, even clad proofs, that have sold for eye-opening prices. When pristine condition and collector demand come together. First, the facts. The 2007 Wyoming quarter was struck at the San Francisco Mint, exclusively for collectors, as part of the U.S. Mint's annual proof sets. These coins weren't intended for circulation. They were sold directly to collectors, sealed in protective cases. The mintage for the clad proof version was about $2,794,000, tiny compared to the hundreds of millions of circulation strikes from Philadelphia and Denver. This coin's design is pure Wyoming pride. The bucking horse and rider, the bold words, the equality state, and the date of statehood, 1890. The proof version is instantly recognizable. The background fields have a mirror-like shine, while the design elements appear frosted and a finish known as cameo or deep cameo when it's especially strong. Condition is everything here. In the coin world, proofs are graded from PR60 up to PR70, and a flawless PR70 deep cameo can command far more than a typical example. While most PR69s are common and affordable, those perfect 70s, especially early strikes with sharp detail and zero flaws, can pull in hundreds of dollars, sometimes more, from registry set collectors who compete for the best of the best. Errors and varieties exist even in proof coins. You might find a double die on the lettering, die Polish lines in unusual places, or even a struck-through error, where something got between the die and the planche during striking. These are rare in proofs, but when they happen, the price can jump dramatically. The standard clad proof quarter weighs about 5.67 grams and has a composition of copper nickel over a pure copper core. If you weigh a supposed clad proof and find it's heavier, around 625 grams, you might have a silver proof instead, which is a whole different value tier. Always check. Finding one of these in pocket change is extremely rare since they weren't meant for circulation. But it does happen. Sometimes proof coins get broken out of sets, used as spending money by accident, or given away by someone who doesn't know their value. That means your change jar, a flea market coin bin. If you come across a Wyoming clad proof that looks pristine, handle it only by the edges, avoid wiping or cleaning it, and store it in a non-PVC holder. If it looks flawless under 5x magnification, consider sending it to PCGS or NGC for professional grading. For high-grade proofs, grading can turn a $10 coin into a $200+ coin, depending on demand. Selling a high-grade proof or error? Skip the casual online listings and go straight to reputable venues, heritage auctions, great collections, or other well-known coin auction platforms. This puts your coin in front of serious collectors willing to pay top dollar. The 2007 Wyoming clad proof quarter might not have the melt value of its silver counterpart, but it has something equally powerful: collector scarcity and perfect grades. With fewer than 3 million minted, deep cameo appeal, and the iconic cowboy design, it's a coin that's both visually striking and historically meaningful. So next time you see that mirror finish and the S mint mark, don't pass it over. In a world of billions of ordinary quarters, this one stands apart. And who knows, your proof quarter might just be the missing piece in someone's high-stakes collection. You're at a coin show, slowly browsing a table stacked with proof sets, when something catches your eye, a coin gleaming like a tiny mirror. It's the Wyoming State Quarter, but unlike the ones you've seen in change, this one feels heavier in the hand. You look closer and there it is, the small S mint mark above the date. This isn't just any Wyoming quarter. It's a 2007 silver proof, a coin that blends American history, silver bullion, and numismatic artistry all in one. You might have heard wild claims online. This Wyoming quarter sold for $500,000. Let's be honest, those headlines are almost always misunderstandings, mixing up coins, conditions, and auction quirks. But make no mistake, there are genuine silver proofs from Wyoming that have sold for hundreds, even thousands when condition, rarity, and collector demand align. The truth is even more interesting than the hype. The 2007 Wyoming silver proof was struck at the San Francisco Mint, not for circulation, but exclusively for collectors. It was part of the annual silver proof set, meaning the U.S. Mint sold it directly in a sealed presentation case alongside other denominations. Unlike regular quarters, this one is 90% silver and 10% copper, giving it a bright white luster and a satisfying weight of 6.25 grams. That silver content alone gives it a base melt value, which rises and falls with the silver market. But collectors are after much more than just the metal. The design is one of the most minimal yet striking in the entire 50 State Quarters program. A bold silhouette of a bucking horse and rider dominates the reverse, honoring Wyoming's frontier spirit. The words "the Equality State" reference its groundbreaking history as the first U.S. state to grant women the right to vote. Proof strikes bring this design to life in a way that no circulation strike can. A mirror-like background. Fields reflect light like glass, while the frosted details pop in three-dimensional contrast, especially in high-end deep cameo examples. Mintage for the 2007 silver proof quarter was just 193,481, a fraction of the hundreds of millions struck at Philadelphia and Denver. For circulation, in perfect PR70 deep cameo condition, these coins are anything but common. Registry set collectors, the kind who compete to have the top-ranked complete sets, will pay a strong premium for flawless examples. In fact, some PR70 decam pieces have sold for well over $200 at major auctions, with particularly nice early strikes fetching even more. Silver proofs can also come with rare and valuable errors. Though quality control at the San Francisco Mint is strict, mistakes still happen. A doubled die on the lettering, a frosted detail missing from one area, or even a planche flaw that slipped through inspection. Since silver-proof coins were never intended to circulate, finding one with a striking error is like catching lightning in a bottle. Such coins, when graded and authenticated, can bring four-figure prices from the right buyer. Another detail collectors watch for is toning. Natural color changes on silver, caused by storage conditions over time. A 2007 silver proof with rainbow toning that still retains its deep cameo contrast can sell for many times the price of a typical example, simply because it becomes a one-of-a-kind piece of art. You're probably wondering where to find one of these. The most reliable source is original 2007 silver proof sets, which often pop up at coin shows, online marketplaces, and estate sales. Every so often a silver proof escapes into the wild, maybe broken from a set, maybe spent accidentally, and ends up in a dealer's junk silver bin. If you're lucky enough to find one in circulation, you've just scored silver at face value, which is almost like finding treasure. If you think you have one, weigh it on a precise digital scale. A clad proof quarter weighs 5.67 grams. A silver proof will be closer to 6.25 grams. That small difference instantly confirms whether you have the real thing. Handle it carefully only by the edges, and avoid touching the mirrored surfaces. Even the lightest fingerprint can reduce its grade. When it comes to selling, you have options. For average grade silver proofs, you can list them on eBay or sell to a reputable coin shop. But if yours is in PR69 or PR70 deep cameo, or if it has an error or beautiful toning, your best bet is a major auction house like Heritage Auctions or Great Collections. This way, your coin gets in front of the right collectors who will pay top market value. The 2007 Wyoming silver proof quarter is a perfect example of how a modern coin can carry both intrinsic and collector value. It's silver, it's scarce and perfect grades, and it represents a unique chapter in American coinage history. Whether you're hunting for one to complete a proof set, stacking silver for the future, or chasing that elusive perfect grade, this quarter delivers a story worth telling. So next time you come across a gleaming Wyoming quarter with an S mint mark, remember, it could be just another coin, or it could be a small, shining piece of history worth far more than its face value. And if it happens to be that perfect PR70 deep cameo, it might just be the crown jewel of your modern collection.